with me. I just don't remember it off the top of my head. On the program, we would talk about probiotics. Now, we all know what antibiotics are, and I suppose we've been through an era of about the last 50 years, maybe 60, where they invented antibiotics, and we use them for a lot of things, and they have been wonderful. However, antibiotics, well, that's not actually what they are. They're chemicals that are used by things like bacteria and that to regulate growth and all sorts of things. We used them at higher levels and found they gave us reasonable control. And look, it got rid of a whole lot of diseases, all sorts of naughty diseases of your naughty bits and other things, which were very problematic. However, they obviously tend to kill a lot of the good bits. Within your tummy, you have many, many organisms that live there. It's sort of horrible to think about it, but with humans, they've identified between 400 and 500 different organisms that live in your tummy, and there are billions of members of those organisms that live in this soup down from your, through into your bowel and all the rest of it, that help you digest food, so much so that many animals simply could never digest their food without those organisms. Now, as an example, young horses, if you ever breed them, you'll see them, the first thing they eat, apart from drinking the milk from their mum, they'll eat their mother's poo. They eat their mother's poo because it infects their tummy with all the flora, as we call it, all the little organisms necessary to be able to break down cellulose. Termites can't digest wood or cellulose or whatever without having in their gut a soup of various sorts of organisms. So clearly these basic organisms that we have in our tummies are very, very important. And you often hear things about, oh yes, he's sick, he's got E. coli, shortened form of Escherichia coli. But we all have that, and it's a good thing. It's just you can get the odd form of it that's nasty. So the issue comes up, how do you keep your soup, the tummy soup that all of us carry around, how do we keep that healthy, and what role does it play? Well, we've got Kevin Healey on the line. He's an industrial microbiologist, in other words, a scientist, and he actually works on these sorts of things, and particularly with a product called Protexin. Welcome to the program, Kevin.
Good morning, Don. Good morning, everyone.
Now, I hope I didn't screw anything up there.
No, that was actually very good. Thank you for that.
All right. Now, just looking at it, there are things called probiotics. I suppose they started off, as everything does, a bit primitive, and they're getting better and better and better.
Yes, certainly there's a lot of interest in probiotics, driven along by increased understanding of the microbiology of digestion, but also because of what you mentioned about the failure of antibiotics as a means of managing disease that everyone has relied on for so long.
And I guess the one thing you and I would very much agree about is that the next 50 years, the past one having been the antibiotic, the next 50 years will be the immune system and getting it working a lot better.
Yes, I think so. As immunology has developed, people have begun to understand what a wonderful defence mechanism that we people and animals have, and how important it is to actually keeping us alive and in good health.
Yeah, and these probiotics play a big part in that. So can you run through, so it's a funny word, probiotics, crudely speaking, what are the end results? Before we look at exactly what they are and how they work and so on, what are the gains you get if you are taking good quality probiotics?
Probably the principal gain, Don, is good digestion. I mean, everyone with themselves and their animals, they appreciate how important a good diet is and the link between that and good health, but there's a sort of a chain in between, and the first one is good digestion. If the diet is good, but it's not digested well, the animal that eats that diet won't get the benefit out of it.
So it can be something to get rid of chronic diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome. Yes. But they also recommend yours a lot for periods of stress. Can you explain why a probiotic would be useful when you're going through periods, or an animal is going through periods of stress?
Yes, indeed, Don. This is where an animal's stress response, all animals have a stress response, and we have it, and it's a pretty common mechanism, and it causes a number of physical and physiological changes when we experience stress. Now, that can be stress because we feel threatened, or stress because we're in a chronically uncomfortable situation like heating and things like that.
And that can lead to a cavalcade of things. Now, obviously, the clear thing is, if you've been on a course of antibiotics, if I were a doctor, which I'm not, but if I were a doctor and I were recommending antibiotics, or even a vet, I think I'd be inclined very often to say, I think once you've finished that group and you're back to health, you should immediately go onto a probiotic course just to rejig your tummy.
I agree agree with that completely, Don, and in fact Protexin has an approved claim for use after antibiotic therapy. It's one of the well-known applications of probiotics.
And when you're saying getting the tummy better and so on, I guess that leads to better growth and weight gains in a lot of animals too.
Yes, indeed. I mean, because Protexin's registered and approved for all animals and birds, so it's used under a really wide range of circumstances. But, for example, in farming animals, where productivity is the name of the game, then optimum digestion means optimum performance, optimum weight gain, and optimum feed efficiency, which means good digestion of the feed.
And at the end of the day, you're not actually adding anything artificial. You're just re-establishing what's normal.
Yes. The probiotic bacteria in Protexin are all from a natural source. Has a long history of safe use under Australian conditions all around Australia. They come from natural sources, and ultimately each individual has their own population of microbes in their gut. You've got yours, I've got mine, everyone listening has theirs, and they're all different.
Hence Barley Belly. We should just point out that you can go to one of these places overseas where they have different strains of the same species that you might have in your tummy, and all of a sudden you've got the runs.
Yes, indeed, because even though they're the same species, they're kind of cousins, and some of these are carrying what they call virulence genes, which makes them disease-causing, and a probiotic can help you push those fellas out and just let your own native population of microbes reassert itself, and you'll feel fine again.
Yeah, the old cliche, nature abhors a vacuum, so if your tummy doesn't have enough organisms or varieties of organisms in that soup in your tummy and down into your bowel and all the rest of it, then something may go wrong.
Yeah, it's astonishing. People say that we're in a minority in our own body, because while our bodies are made up of billions of cells, there's about 10 times as many down inside our intestines.
Yes, it's not. It is much better understood than it used to be, but it's not fully understood yet, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, you mentioned before there are 400 or 500 species of microbes that have been identified in, say, an animal's digestive system. But within those species, there are many, many different variants, and so that multiplies that population enormously. And then those are the ones that have been able to be cultivated in the laboratory. There are many that we know, probably most of them, that can't be. And new techniques like DNA technology is opening a window on that. But in terms of understanding what we see through that window, we've got a long way to go on that yet.
And the difficulty and the thing where somebody like you is valuable to the community, the difficult thing is obviously identifying the organisms. But then once you've identified them, you've then got to work out a way of breeding them up in a laboratory, then stabilising them so you can put them in a bottle or whatever, and in a way such that they survive down through the acid areas of the tummy into the lower areas where they need to do their job.
Yeah, and that is part of the selection process and part of the processing, and then the chain continues. You may have fantastic bacteria in the laboratory, but you've got to prepare them and present them in a way that is practical for the end users to use, to give them dosage information so they know how much to give and when, and you have to have all of that worked out in order to be able to get a good result. But Protexin's been on the market now since 1996, so we think we've got a pretty good grasp on that, not just from a theoretical point of view, but also from the feedback we get from the field.
And it's sort of funny, isn't it, that you've got a baby koala and they live for quite a long time on nothing but their mother's poo. They redigest their mother's poo because their tummy is not mature enough to digest gum leaves, so they eat mummy's poo and so on. You think of what a simple system that is, and yet how relatively complex it is to put the equivalent of that into a system for other animals and human beings and so on. Now, the big one with yours is, I don't particularly want to be destructive against other companies, but there's a lot of those probiotics out there on the market that might just have one organism. When you look at the fact most animals have 400 to 500 that we know of, one species of an organism is not really enough. You've got 7.
Yeah, indeed. We believe that, yes, one can be useful, but we're trying to be able to deliver a result reliably across a wide range of conditions that the animal might be in and across all the animal species. And so this team of 7 that we're using seem to have been put together very well, work well together as a team, and can deliver, sometimes quite amazing results.
Right. So yours is for all animals. So you could be growing cattle, sheep, horses, goats, or any chooks, birds,
Yes.
whatever. So basically all animals, be they farm or domestic animals,
Correct.
will gain from this product.
Yes, and being on the end of the advice line, and we have an advice line, I wouldn't mind giving the number later if that's okay.
Do it now.
Yeah, okay. It's 1-800-801-201. That's 1-800-801-201. Probably you'll be speaking with me. It's a toll-free from a landline. It's the Protexin advice line.
Isn't that good? And you're not meeting some bloody salesperson. Not that there's anything wrong with salespeople, but when you want to know technical stuff, you want a technical person. I think it's wonderful stuff, I really do, and I think the years ahead, these products will continue to get better and better and better. So well done. Oh, just last, I should point out, in case anyone's confused, although around the world I think there's Protexin available for humans, in Australia you only do it for animals, don't you?
That is correct, Don.
Okay, all right. Well, that's fantastic. Well, look, well done, and that'd be what a privilege to talk to somebody as grounded in the science of these things as you are to find out about it. Well done. I enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks very much, Don. Thanks for the opportunity.
There you are. That's Kevin Healey, and that product is called Protexin, Protexin. The main form that they often keep refrigerated, but you can buy it from a lot of animal places and all the rest of it. And a lot of animal people now are saying they're getting spectacular results by using Protexin because it's the next sort, even though it's not out in the last 5 minutes, it is the next generation of much better probiotic.
Don Burke, your very own gardening guru. Talk